Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to PCQuest Agritech Talks. I'm Soma from PCQuest, and I would like to welcome you all to our discussion today, making farming sustainable with satellite imagery and communication. So, before I introduce you to our guest today, let me give you a quick peek into the topic today. So, from farming to crop insurance, the integration of satellite imagery and geospatial data into a host of innovative solutions is helping agriculture work smarter and more sustainably. What are some of the solutions in this space? What are the possibilities going further? To discuss all this, today we have with us Anuj Sharma, co founder, Earth Analytics India.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Anuj. So, next we have Vijay Kumar, SVP and CTO, ESRI India.
Thank you, Soma. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon.
Welcome, Mr. Kumar.
Thank you.
And we have another guest today, Mr. Yogesh Patil, CEO, Skymet.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Soma.
Yeah, hi. So, welcome, gentlemen, to the discussion today. So, I'll go. I have my queries. I will ask you. You can go in any order you want. So my first question today is, improving the productivity and reducing the crop risks of smallholder farmers considered to be a key component of the effort to reduce global poverty and increase food security. So how satellite data and imagery can help in building new solutions in this regard? So anyone can go first.
So maybe if I take my approach in this,
Go ahead,
is that
Anuj,
like
please.
So if we see nobody can understand more about farming beyond a farmer who actually knows the land in and out. Like they do farming all their lives, not just their lives. They have been having that whole profession. They have been doing multiple generations as well. What remote sensing actually uniquely brings together is the aggregation power of that knowledge and kind of unlocking the additional values around it. And this is what is very, very important in terms of prediction models and various other things. Then we can top it up to give a kind of a sense of urgency sometimes, which may be required in terms of climate change, or some kind of a way by which the farmers can take decisions much faster. And that's what we are trying to build through remote sensing.
Okay, Mr. Kumar?
Yeah, I think just to add what Anuj has mentioned, I would like to actually touch upon the primary, thought process that agriculture is a primary source of livelihood, for around 60% of India population now. And moreover, in last couple of years, I think we are exporting also. Export is also, growing for agriculture and allied products. So in a way, I mean, a lot of people are talking about it, that agriculture has potential to become Indian agriculture, the food bowl of the world. I mean, we can do a lot of, agriculture support and produce for the world. So the key aspect, I believe, what need to be taken and, improved. I mean, we need to build efficiencies into the agriculture, production, optimize production cost, and then, integrate quality standards as part of the practice. Very, very important. And then, of course, have efficiencies built in the agriculture, produce, trading, and etc. All those processes. So these are important aspects. And probably all technology, when we talk about, let's say, coming to space technology. So space technology have a big role to play in agri-tech in all the stages, whether complete life cycle. So satellite data today is becoming, quite an open community these days. And there are many startups, who are emerging, who are processing data, applying, advanced technologies, AI, ML, deep learning, big data analytics, blockchain, IoT, and developing solutions to solve ground level challenges. An interesting model is emerging, of providing analytics as a service also. I mean, when we talk to many companies, small companies also, and people are talking about that. So this will really, change the entire paradigm and help the end user to reduce their technology expenses. So a lot of development is happening in this area, and I'm sure the satellite and space technologies are helping a lot as of now. But there is a huge potential actually untapped.
Yep.
Mr. Patil,
Yep.
how would you like to add to that?
Sure. So I think we are actually working on ground along with farmer extensively. I think more than a decade now. So whatever I think my learnings or as an organization's learning with our interaction with the farmers, and whenever I say farmers, it is primarily more focused on the smallholder farmers of India. So I would just like to break this into two parts. One is in productivity, which you mentioned. Is it possible to use satellite data, or you can say an images or satellite derived intelligence? Can we actually help to improve productivity or not? Our experience says, and we still believe that based on whatever remote sensing state are we in right now, it has limited role in improving productivity. Okay, because as Anuj rightly said, the farmer knows much better and clearly can see clearly about the agriculture. So we think that the crop productivity is more dependent on the certain other parameter like his own interest and adoption on the modern agriculture. He should have an easy and quick access to credit, and third one is immediate financial relief, particularly where unforeseen calamities happens. So here satellite imagery plays a limited role. I'll specifically, if would like to tell that key easy and quick flow of credit, this is somewhere something where now the remote sensing is started playing a critical role now. Use of satellite intelligence to actually come out with the farm scores and created entire digital lending journey where a small or the marginal farmers can actually have an easy access of credit. It's still on paper, but yes, there are a lot of pilots are actually going on in India. Second, I think the immediate financial relief. I think most predominantly in India, whenever there's a flood happens or any unusual weather event happens, a standard rule says that the physical survey needs to be done. Okay, and post that physical survey, government comes out with the relief mechanism and farmers gets paid, which many times it takes more than 6 months to year. Okay, I think here satellite data is playing an extremely critical role. So based on the micro images and all, you can actually quickly identify which is the area which is inundated, and based on that, the certain immediate relief can actually given to the farmers, and which actually can help them to continue their agricultural activity. So there are a lot of, I think, the decision support systems also are now getting built up in India. Multiple organizations are doing that, where use of satellite, IoT, and ground pictures are combined, and people started providing a decision support system to a farmer. So I think satellite derived intelligence is now slowly getting effectively applied now in agriculture, and primarily I think is more on the credit and insurance sector right now.
Yeah, so we were, talking today about sustainability of agriculture. So before, going deep into the topic, I would like to know from you, if you could tell us about the solutions you are providing to, agriculture sector or, farmers or anywhere in the ecosystem. So if you could go one by one, Mr. Kumar, you would like to start?
Sure. So I think as Yogesh also mentioned, I would like to add to that. See, typically what happen, I mean, we need to see the holistic view. See, today agri-tech sector is growing, but I think potential is huge. I mean, we have touched only the tip of the iceberg, maybe few percent, maybe less than 10% rather. So what we need to see, I mean, we need to see all the stakeholders in this agri ecosystem. So when I see, different stakeholder means farmers, definitely the producers, then agri, input retail suppliers or manufacturers, whether it is seed or fertilizers or pesticides or tools or equipments, Or there are actually agri service providers also. Let's say people are emerging, companies are emerging for drone surveys and soil testing and equipment hiring, or farm as a service also. The concept has already started. For example, let's say sowing as a service, tilling as a service, pesticide as a service. Then you have banking and finance services. Then you have aggregators also now emerging. Then self-help groups are also there, societies and groups are there. So the different stakeholders, in fact. And typically for agri outputs also, you have large number of stakeholders: logistics suppliers, transporters, mandis, traders, storage and processing industries, and exporters. So I think when we talk about digital system, it's very important that we kind of consider every stakeholder. So we create a backbone, digital backbone for the agriculture segment in India, where different stakeholders will access the single source of truth in a way, but in their own paradigm, what they want to see, what they want to analyze. So that is very, very important actually. So we see many companies are emerging, solving the problems in bits and pieces for different stakeholders. But I think sooner or later, what will happen, that there'll be enterprise digital hub, agri hub, which will be created for the country, you know and then where multiple stakeholders can benefit. I think that will be the ideal situation, in fact, and I'm sure we are on that path, that journey.
Okay, and Mr. Sharma, I would like to come to you. So you are providing an interesting kind of solution. So tell me, what kind of promises do you see in terms of making farming sustainable, and what kind of solutions you are actually providing to the ecosystem?
So we all actually started, like when we started almost 4 years back, our full focus was primarily doing some kind of more like a widespread traditional model of remote sensing, of helping farmers with some kind of informations in terms of crop insurance, if we put it like this. Similarly, crop companies, we were giving information like crop insurance companies. The same way we were also providing information to government and others. It was more of a, we will say, a push-based strategy that we had, and that is widespread. Most of the remote sensing entities do it. However, we found that this aspect, whichever is there, and also a huge amount of like agri-related impetus which is coming into the ecosystem, like a huge amount of startups are there and they are doing wonderful work. For some reason, we are not able to do a drastic change to the small farm holders directly because of lots of political challenges or some other economical challenges and other aspects which are there. So we felt, why not we kind of do this whole thing heads on, of taking the small farm holders first. And in that whole quest, we kind of pivoted into a very important segment, which is called Solify. And in the Solify, what we are trying to do is we are trying to understand if farmers could be compensated or rewarded for shifting towards regenerative agriculture practices. Now, if I go back, let's say 40 years back, before, let's say, or 60 or 50 years back, before Green Revolution, everything was regenerative. But we got into Green Revolution. We felt like by throwing fertilizers, pesticides, we will be able to feed everybody. But in turn, what we got is we got lots of different other side effects which nobody was talking at that time, like right from cancer to various other diseases which came and became widespread. So we have to go back to what our roots were. But to do that, if I'm a farmer, for me, the livelihood of me or survival is very important. So we are trying to find a mechanism by which they can get, let's say, carbon credit because of the shift they can have. Second, if they can get clear market linkages because of the kind of way we can certify that, hey, look, you are organic. And third, which is very important as well, is getting conservation finance for all these efforts that they can also have. So we are kind of doing certain things by which we can say it is a product approach that we are doing, rather than just a data analytics approach, which may not be suitable in long run. So that's what we are right now focusing on.
Okay. So, Mr. Patil, you are, doing wonderful work with, the company you have founded, the weather surveys, the weather advisory you are providing. So, how your solution works, and how you are actually, trying to help the farmers, or even if you could tell from the perspective, like, how this kind of, advisory can, reduce the risks for the farmers.
Sure. So, Soma, we are primarily catering this entire value chain through three products of the company. The first product is our digital platforms, which is free to use, accessible to all, okay, which is primarily a web portal, okay, where we generally see on an average more than 30 million visitors come to our portal just to see or get the weather information about the forewarnings. What is going to happen in my village? Okay, are there any hailstorm alerts and all? Or they can actually can see a live weather data sets also on our portal. That is one source. We have dedicated mobile applications where we have more than a million subscribers, where we keep on sending alerts to them on their mobile phone based on their geolocation. Okay, if it's a farmer, he can select his crop, and if that weather is actually affecting his agriculture, so that information also he can get it. So all these platform is basically completely free to them, and that's why it's becoming more and more popular. So this is one product which is scattered across the country, which includes the urban and the rural part also. Okay. Uh, the rest two products are primarily focused on the areas which are more supporting to this sector. One is bank. Okay, so banks we actively work with all large public and private sector banks, where the Skymet's ground up approach of using satellite, drone data sets, land record or cadastral data, and the ground sensing data sets. Combining these three, we actually built farm level scores, and state there are 7 states of India where the banks use our platform actually to renew the KCC loans. Okay, so where so historically, any bank officer has to go and visit this particular farmer's land to verify all these details. Okay, so it generally takes 15 days to get the credit, and there are a lot of local moral hazards also there. So we actually built a platform where the branch or the bank doesn't have to go on field. Okay, so the collateral free loan can be sanctioned in a day or max two. Okay, and this is something which is becoming more and more popular in India, and many banks, particularly the public sector banks, have now started building the digital journey. So there is a concept which RBI is pushing, that key collateral free loan up to say 1.6 lakhs. There should not be any collateral. There should not be any physical visit. Farmer can just sit into his home, use a mobile platform, just apply for loan, use all your analytics at backend, and loan should be disbursed to him directly. Okay, so this is something I think where a lot of new innovation is still pending, but this is something where we are actually focusing. And the third is our, I can say, our bread and butter is coming from the insurance sector. Okay, so we primarily run 6,500 ground sensors placed across the India. We basically run the largest private weather network for entire Asia, which includes weather, lightning, the crop cameras also, which is streaming live images and data sets of every 10-minute interval. Okay, so this platform is actually used by Indian insurance companies to settle the crop insurance claim. Either it can be index triggered claims, or it can be a kind of proxy indicator kind of thing. Okay, so this is the three platforms where we are actually serving this entire community.
Yeah, true. Actually, an RBI, a report that actually estimated that despite, numerous existing initiatives, only 40% of India's small and marginal farmers are covered by formal credit. So, do you see, because you are working in the satellite data and imagery space, so do you see that, companies like you have a possibility to collaborate with, India? We know we have, numerous fintech companies, interesting and innovative fintech companies. So do you see any possibility of collaboration with, this kind of fintech companies or startups, interesting startups, to transform, farm loans?
Yeah,
I'll come.
yeah. So, okay. Should I continue, or anybody wants to take first?
Yeah, you can continue, and then probably Mr. Kumar and Mr. Sharma can pitch in. Yeah.
So that's what we're saying. Ki, these kind of initiatives started 3 years back with State Bank of India taking lead in India, who has started the similar journey for the agricultural credit, use of satellite data, land maps, and the ownership, and actually provide the easy and credit to them. So where with this simple initiative, a lot of private sector banks have started jumping onto it, and they also started crediting this. Now the new form of this which is coming out is something where the fintech should also act as a lead generator. Okay, so banks are basically, as you rightly mentioned, that small and marginal farmers are still not making use of or getting benefited of this credit policy of government of India. These are mainly used by the large farmers. Okay, and where these kind of initiative, like the integration of large lender lending banks, fintech, agri-fintech, and technology provider, if they can start serving their own community with this integrated approach, a lead generation can happen very fast. The cost of managing these kind of loan accounts will be on the lower side. Okay, the bank doesn't have to actually go physically and open a branch and appoint a business correspondent there, where they have to pay a monthly fees. These kind of things will not be there. So I think there's a huge potential of linking fintech, agri-fintech, or tech provider of their own domain and integrating that with the large banks, or in that say the cooperative banks also. Okay, okay. Then I think that shift is happening there, and absolutely that is in next 5 years that is going to get. I think the massive potential is there.
Also, we see, most of the farmers in India are not, within the formal, are not covered by the formal credit system. So, I would like to know from, Mr. Kumar and Mr. Sharma, how companies like you can collaborate with interesting solution providers. India, we know. There are interesting solutions providers, a lot of new startups who are working, who are developing interesting solutions both for agri-tech and fintech. Do you see any interesting solutions that can come up, which will cover the farmers, the majority of the farmers who are not covered by traditional banks or lenders?
Yeah, may I?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So actually, just would like to mention that see what is happening when I talk about space technology, satellite data, and integration with fintech and all. See, one of the major challenge which lots of people are facing is availability of all these data sets at a right resolution at a right price. So there's a lot of challenge sometimes end user face that procuring repetitive data is very costly, and then you have to have lots of data processing cost, and then analyze information, and then share it, and then use it that in solution. So what we have done in last couple of years, we have taken a program to build actually the digital database for the country, the base GIS database for the country, for various applications. And we have bundled now, we have a product called Indo ArcGIS. So Indo ArcGIS typically, you have a core GIS platform, ArcGIS, and then you have the content, entire country content, different layers. I mean, there are around 300 plus data layers, and then you have typical solution and templates and models. So we intend to offer this kind of bouquet to various startups and end users also, and various developer communities. So what challenges we thought to sort out from this is that satellite data is available for the entire country as a service, and then you have entire foundational maps up to village level, village boundaries, taluka boundaries, or district boundaries, state boundaries, with integrated demography and socioeconomic parameters, then integrated terrain data, soil data, climate data. There are around 300 data sets, which we have actually partnered with a couple of government providers also. And then, we are going ahead and publishing this. An interesting aspect is that this data is going to be available to the users, platform users, without any additional price and additional cost. There is no additional cost. It's a freely available. So intent behind this was that so that users and developer communities, partners, startups, they can use this data without much investment in this direction. and this data can be accessed as a service. They can consume as as a REST API or web service. So this is an initiative actually to encourage and motivate various solution providers who want to integrate geospatial technology, space technology into various other domain applications and solutions. So I'm sure this is going to help a lot, and we welcome all the startup in to join this program with us.
Okay. Mr. Sharma, you would like to add something to it?
Yeah, definitely. So thanks, Mr. Yogesh and Vijay, for sharing a very detailed insight on these things. So for us, we have a kind of a slightly macro, broader approach towards this whole solution. So if we see, first of all, we have to admit that out of the total farmer base in India, and India is a kind of a predominantly farming country, we have 85% of farmers which are small farm holders. And I'm talking small farm holders is just 1 acre and less. Technically, satellite solutions, they don't even care because for them survival is very important. And even the 40% formal credit which you are saying, that includes that 15% which are large farmers, if I put it like that, because the data are very blurry. So because none of the people want to actually give credit to them, like neither the bank nor other initiatives which are actually reach out to them, because they are very small farm holders. Majority of them actually do not even know that their farms are owned by them, because money lenders have already taken it over for because of some very small amounts, or because of the grains they want to have, or let's say some kind of inputs they want to take. So we need to find a very concrete option where we are collaborating together, and that's where like having a scientific community, academic community, and also startups and technological things, we come together and do something which is path breaking, which is happening in different other domains like blended finance, where we also use some kind of philanthropic initiatives and some kind of a risk investors coming together to kind of further these movements to the next level as well. And to give a sense, like in education, this kind of thing has happened earlier. The same thing has happened in climate change related initiative in solar. But can we do it in agriculture? That's something which is not I will say impossible. But for that, we need to have a very clear intent, which is positive. So positive intent, when we talk about it, technologies can only be useful if it is having a very clear use case. If we are only using this as data sets or having very great spreadsheets and other thing, it's not going to serve any purpose. And also, we need to be clear that technology democratizes the way we can reach to people. Like if we take, let's take Uber as an example. When it all started, people were criticizing that it will eat away the businesses of, let's say, taxi people and other things. But at the end of the day, yeah, as a consumer, it was a very great democratic process for me, because I can get equality, I can give ranking to them, and so on and so forth. So same way, if I am a farmer and I have a certified, let's say, organic produce, I will be getting like a premium, because I can actually get it linked through the technology, which could be democratically accessible by me without too much of ambiguity. So if we take that approach, we are only strengthening the thing. So let's assume there is a farmer based out of Uttarakhand, and that person is growing, let's say, ginger, which is organic. The same thing, if I want to access in Bombay, I'm ready to pay a premium to that, because I need to have a healthy living for my family. So when I go to a premium Nature's Basket store, I am ready to pay 300 rupees per kg. But what if I get a fresh ginger from Uttarakhand shipped to me, which is still cheaper, but at the same time, farmer is able to get 5 times of the produced pricing. So we need to have that kind of linkages coming in, and that's where the remote sensing is very unique. So we need to go slightly further and open up the whole aspects of linking together, and that's where like the intersection of academia and practitioners comes together. And lots of things are already happening in this whole thing. But at the same time, what we are kind of trying to see the movement, like when this whole agri startup movement also started out, we still were talking about input providers or lots of startups which were still at the periphery. They were selling goods and so on and so forth. But now the initiatives are going much deeper. We are seeing startups coming out of Bihar, there's startups coming out of UP, startup coming out of like rural Maharashtra. Like things are happening in a now larger way. And it is not just about startup getting funding. Lots of startup are there which are bootstrapped, still done great amount of things, because they are also having some kind of a domain knowledge of farming and other things. So that kind of convergence is happening. And now the convergence has to happen is like where technology speaks to the practitioners and users, and then we kind of co-create all these things in a proper way. Yeah.
I guess when we are talking about democratizing these kind of information, satellite data, and the advisory. I want to know from you all that India has a majority of the land are held by small and marginal farmers. So does the micro landholding makes it even more challenging proposition to democratizing those information for the farmers, and also they are constantly coping up with the uncertainties related to weather, ills, price, etc. And also, we cannot expect farmers to go green if their accounts are in the red. So what can be done really to bring the upfront cost down for embracing this kind of solution?
Maybe I can add, that I think this is a very relevant point. And whatever technology intervention, technology developments, we are talking, everybody's talking today in agri-tech. I think we cannot expect farmers to pay the bill for technology deployment. That won't be really right. See, there are a lot of other stakeholders, who has capacity to pay or amortize the cost of technology expenses in long term. But we have to really consider, farmers getting benefit of this, not really expecting farmers to pay. So this can happen, in fact, and over the years, we will see a lot of disruption in technology, outcomes, and various solutions also. I'm sure that overall technology deployment cost will come down drastically. It's coming down every year, right, with a lot of advancements. And we need to evolve a business model together, as a solution provider, industry, we have to join hands, evolve a business model where define that from where the cost is going to come, who is going to pay end of the day. Many companies are thinking that government is going to fund, but that is also not happening, right, all the time. So the model has to be self-sustainable, right? And then end of the day, serve the farmers, because end objective is that improve the farmer incomes and improve the production, improve the quality of the outcomes. That is the end outcome, actually.
Yeah, Mr. Patil, you would like to add, because you were saying that there are a lot of challenges in terms of reaching the farmers, and there should be some kind of service kind of approach to it. So you would like to add?
Yeah. So I think from the remote sensing angle, yes, it is challenging. The cost of the entire technology is on the higher side. But we find that if there are certain projects which we have worked where the cluster based farming or the agri cluster based approach where we have worked, that looked more promising to us actually to bring down this cost of cultivation or access to technology. Okay. And against to that, to get the more better pricing and more marketable produce. I think that is something where which I think both the institutions also from the government side and a lot of startup communities also now working on this approach, where the benefit of this approach is where something where the smallholder farmers also can join together. So I think FPO can be one of the such initiative which government of India is also pushing, where if they join together, they can absolutely can bring down the entire cost of cultivation, both on the input side and technology side also. And obviously, once they join together, the marketable produce will be on the more, and definitely they can bargain better for pricing. That's why you are seeing a lot of agri clusters which are getting developed in India.
Yeah, Mr. Sharma, you would like to add to that how whether micro holding pattern is creating a problem, or if you have any other perspective related to it.
Yeah. So obviously, like when remote sensing started out in the present form, we were able to measure like the commercial ones, the commercial satellites, not the military one, were not having that kind of precision that we can give a very proper analysis in this whole aspect. But now, as the technology is evolving, more satellites are in space. we are getting accuracy up till 50 centimeters, which is a pretty good, like I will say, a precision. At the same time, there's been lots of other use cases which are also there, which kind of converging in. And India is a pretty unique country in terms of that we are like 1.4 billion population crammed in a very small place, and majority of people are dependent on farming. So, and because of the kind of population and all the complexities we are having, we have huge amount of small farmholder holdings as well. So, and we don't see that this is going to change in that whole thing, like it is going to remain. So what we have to see is what kind of agriculture practices these small farmholders are primarily doing, and how we evolve and recalibrate our remote sensing technology. So one of the small example I can put it across is, so I was in Dehradun remote part, and was talking to one of the farmer who was trying to get into regenerative agriculture, and were asking like, are you very satisfied, you want to go towards that? That person said, no, for me the yield is very important, so even if I have to use fertilizer, I'll do it. But at the same time, I have a small tract of land which I keep for myself, and there I use organic fertilizer and other things. I said, how come? He said, for me, health is important because I'm a small farm holder. I don't have lots of money to go to the hospital. So I'm growing organic for myself, for my family. But this is a kind of insurance for me as a farmer. But the same thing for the market forces, I'm going to use fertilizer, which is good for me to get better produces. So what we are trying to do is, while all other things have got a very good upside in India, like if you see past 40 years, if I was a bank probationary officer, I will be having my employment related, let's say, income levels increasing every year. I have a very good inflationary thing. But do you think farmers have increased their income? No. So we are kind of in a doldrum. If we have to kind of get the whole thing right, first of all, we need to get the basics right, that farmer cannot like sell the things at wholesale and buy things at retail. We need to address that whole thing, and that's where other remote sensing could be a unique proposition, where we are kind of linking them with market. If we don't do that, then we are still doing something very myopic. So that's where like what Mr. Yogesh said is very important, the cluster based approach, or let's take an FPO approach, where we are kind of encouraging farmers to come together. Let's say 2,000, 3,000 farmers coming together, and they are forming a kind of loose body, and at that time they are selling their produces in a cluster thing. But at the same time, rather than doing the similar kind of things that we are doing at a local mandis, can they have a better way to channelize their produces to the consumers? Today the consumers are cities, but at some point of time, if the cities goes towards the villages, we can find some other ways as well. But as of now, cities are the most biggest, like I will say, the consumers for the farmer produces. So let's have a mechanism to kind of bridge that gap properly.
Yeah. So from the technology perspective, also there are possibilities of transforming the entire agri ecosystem with satellite imagery and data and this kind of related solutions. So I would like to know from you all that what kind of newer applications can be developed, because we know from the farming perspective, from the soil testing perspective, we know the applications, but what could be the newer applications so that we can think of transforming the entire ecosystem?
So maybe I can
You
add to
want to
that.
go first? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So primarily, when we talk about space technology, satellite data, remote sensing, this is actually one component. When we want to address the issue, holistically, I think there is a need to have a unified digital agriculture database, agri stack. I mean, government has been also talking about it. Various, discussions have been happening. So it's important because what happened, even as a lender, as a banker, I am not confident about the repay capacity of the farmers, small farmers, margin farm, because I don't have data. There is no data available, to me. It's a big challenge. So I think there is an important aspect of building up a digital infrastructure, for the agriculture, for every stakeholder, as I mentioned earlier. Also, whether you call it agri stack or whatever we call. So this digital infrastructure is going to really help a lot, which will become kind of a single backbone for various multiple domains, multiple stakeholder, multiple application, and all the stakeholder can be served from there. And I think it's possible to build that. It's not, I mean, today if you see, I mean, we have, in terms of space technology also, we have, maps available, we have satellite data available, we have lots of other information available, right? We can, multiple department data can also be integrated into it, right? Ownership details, for, agriculture, historical details, soil details, all those details can come, and which can become kind of a single, digital infrastructure, which will help in developing various solutions actually. And we intend to actually support in this direction to all our partners and solution developers and startups, by providing them some of these data sets from the platform, which they can use. Because everybody cannot collect data, everybody cannot have sensors, and everybody cannot, small companies cannot have those data collection investments on ground. So it's important that this digital agriculture infrastructure is built, and which is being accessed by various developers and solution providers, and then they develop innovative solutions to solve the challenges. Very, very important. And I think by this, holistically, I think we can address this issue in long term.
So, talking about the possibilities and the newer applications which could be developed for the entire ecosystem, Mr. Sharma and Mr. Patil, I would like to come to you. So, what kind of possibilities do you see in terms of democratizing this satellite imagery and data and the related solution, obviously?
Yeah, I think I'll quickly add, because as Mr. Vijay has clearly said, a single umbrella, or you can say a digital infrastructure, is essential. But at the same time, a lot of data sets which is primarily available with the government, okay, and which we always say on each and every platform, that needs to be given maybe on the conditional basis to this community. There are efforts, but without that, I think the developing a new solutions, like example I mentioned that key land maps or the cadastral data sets. I not seen a single state in the country who has actually officially giving an access to it. Okay, either you have to get a printable map, then convert it into digital, then do a geo referencing or all, which is easily available with them. Okay, we say that there are many states who are digitally mapped the entire state, but the maps are not available publicly. Okay, so if that kind of data sets, even on the sample basis, can be given it to the lot of startup or systems, the solutions can be made available. Okay, similar, I think second is that the free access or the cheaper access of the satellite images. I think most of the entire country is still working on the agri space, at least on the Sentinel. Many people use Sentinel because it's free, and with the higher frequency and 10-meter resolution. Okay, I think whatever startup I have seen, this is accessible. There are a lot of satellites which are again accessible to the government of India, the ISRO part. We have to pay for it. Okay, the high resolution satellites. The radar sat is also not available freely to the community. So I think there are solutions which the institutes or the customers require. Uh, we know that that can be solved, but we don't have enough data sets. Again, I'll come to the Vijay's point only, that we don't have enough data sets freely available to us where we can solve. We have bits and pieces. Okay, but from our side, we actually launched a campaign last year called SkyGeo, where we have actually opened up all our data sets which we have captured in last 1 decade. Okay, free to the community, because we wanted that, you see, someone is having say satellite imagery for last 7 years. If you don't have a crop signature for last 7 years, how actually he can do a crop classification and all? I said, I have collected 1 million data points for last 10 years. Okay, I am there, I am opening up that. Okay, if anyone wants to use that data set, they can use. I think the similar kind of approach we want to see it from the central government. They are saying that, but I think we are not seeing it actually on ground.
Mr. Sharma?
Yes. So if we see like evolution is happening in the use case in a bigger way today, and that's where like entities like Skymet has been at the forefront. Thanks, Yogesh. and also like ESRI, which has also been very, very clear in terms of providing lots of insights into this whole thing. But at the same time, we feel like there are lots to do, even from the policymakers at a larger level. Because if we have to kind of change the system primarily for the small firm holders, we have to see a systematic change where the mind shift also changes out. Like today, leave out satellite data, leave out other things. Like 60 to 70% of farmers do not get any credit. And even the one which are getting in small farm holders, they have some kind of riders which are not actually feasible for them to fulfill in. So, and without a finance, we are talking about a kind of a regime where they have to self-sustain themselves, and in self-sustain in a way where you have genomic, you have crops or let's say seeds where they also have a seed which has to be purchased every year. We are talking about that. We are also talking about fertilizers which were dumbed on them. They were using DDTs, they were using so many other things which has depleted the soil. If you go to let's say Punjab, 40% of the soil is actually degraded. And if we have to kind of talk about the farmer loss, it's actually increasing day by day, and they are getting into frustration mode, and they are kind of doing certain activities which now cities are getting uncomfortable with. Let's take the stubble burning and various other things as well. But we don't still are addressing the core. The core is like if we are wanting to be wealthy, we want to be healthy, then we need to also take care of other people as well, and we need to have win-win on both sides. And to do that, the good part of technology is that it can, when we are talking about democratization, is like lowering the cost, which is very important thing. Second is also translating into a much easier denominations, which is somewhat simplifying in terms of policymakers. We are talking about not just policymakers at a very larger level, but also at a level where it could be decimated to the level of, let's say, somebody who's financing it, like the public sector banks or cooperatives and various others. At the same time, that should also have a reward mechanism which needs to kind of channelize it. And if we take, let's say, 100 years back or before, no farmer was doing any suicide. There was no cases because farmers were doing a great amount of thing, which is we talk today is barter. And they were also self-sufficient in terms of the food habits and various other things. But today we have depleted that whole thing. And that's where the remote sensing is kind of a very good kind of a spin-off where we can kind of use the technology for development in a more clearer manner. And also kind of get the fulcrum or spotlight back to the farmers, because unless we are not talking with the stakeholders properly, all these technologies are going to go like unused. And what we see is in our initiative for Solify, that is one of the attempt we are doing. So a few other initiatives are also there across the globe where people are attempting it out. And the reason we are trying to attempt, all of us here, to see the soil carbon, soil nitrogen to be replenished in the earth is that if we are not doing this thing properly, within next 20 years, we will be having a massive food shortage across the globe. In spite of the fact that fertilizers, are pesticides, they will not be able to sustain our food. And we are also talking about something which is much larger. And if we see, the fertilizers were not kind of coming out from some other sources. They were one of the abundant things which were there in World War II, and they were started recycling to kind of address the insects and other things. So today, when we are talking about remote sensing, it started from military, but we are using it for public good. And this is something which we can showcase as a very clear example of for the better of the farmers at large in this way.
Okay. Also, we were talking about sustainable farming practices. So, how technology can help making farming or agriculture as a whole really sustainable, because that is quite important in Indian context. Mr. Kumar, you are on mute.
Sorry, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So just to add, I think sustainable agriculture is a key buzzword now. People are talking, and if you see the UN resolutions, and everybody's talking about it actually. And I think as Anuj also mentioned about it, that earlier when we go back 50 years back or 100 years back, I think we were actually quite organic, in our practices. All the farmers, we are not too much pesticide, too much, fertilizers. So there is a need actually, whether fundamental thing is that we need to, while we target the crop yield, but we also need to protect the soil health, right? So by restoring maybe organic carbon, whatever approach we follow is important. And I think one example quoted by Anuj also in this regard, that farmer, they see short term. They are saying, okay, if I produce 10 kg by applying this small fertilizer, so why to actually go for complexity and just produce 5 kg. uh, so if we have a ecosystem or a linkage, different systems are linked, where farmers are actually getting advantage out of that. If let's say I'm motivated to produce organic produce, to I follow best practices, sustainable practices, and I can guarantee those things, and end user is also seeing that, the truth, the linkage, then they will be ready to pay extra, right, for that. And farmers actually can be happy also about it, although they're producing lesser maybe in short term. So it's very important. So I think it's very important that to see that how farmers can be convinced about that, right? So we need to create this linkage. In fact, we need to create this infrastructure. We need to create so that farmers will be confident to actually follow those practices, because when they see that I'm going to be benefited, they will start following up when they see benefits, right? So it's very important perspective from there. And I think if I remember old times, farming was integrated with livestock also, so I mean, this is also coming back now. And I think there is a strong need for going back on those directions, minimizing pesticides, going for composting, or maximizing crop diversity. I see old farmers also, they were quite knowledgeable, fundamentally, that what is the crop rotation, which crop need to be to sown after this crop, what are the cover crops typically, which are going to help. This used to be a traditional practice for us, our farmers. So we need to really come back on that. And how we can come back? We need to create an infrastructure which will build the confidence in among the farmers. Yes, this is the best thing, and they will really earn better by applying these best practices. I've seen couple of companies even working around using this space technology, and there are lots of hundreds of thousands of genotypes studies are happening across various countries, where they see that how they can actually have yield or size or various other properties, right, to improve the product quality, even in up to cooking time also is being a fundamental variable. And so lots of research are happening around this. And I think if we are able to implement the proper infrastructure with the confidence of delivering better to the farmers, I mean, adoption will be higher, in my view.
Mr. Patil and Mr. Sharma, talking about, you were talking about, regenerative farming practices, and Mr. Patil, we were talking about, even since you are working in the weather advisory space, so how these things can minimize risks for farmers, and how this information can really be democratized for farmers' benefit.
So Soma, I think the access of technology, like as I mentioned, that is a lot of solutions which are available. Okay, but to channelize them to a larger population. Okay, like we make use of, like as I mentioned, my own mobile application accessible to all, plus free API integration to an organizations. Okay, like for example, we, apart from us, we tied up with State Bank of India, Bank of India, Baroda, Bank of Baroda, where they are catering larger farmers. So why can't the same information cater to multiple farmers? Because I need a channel. Okay, maybe a one startup can do a fantastic one particular area, how it can reach out to the other part. Okay, so one, integration of this larger platform, easy access, one. And the other thing which we are seeing, that there's a lack of success stories. I know there is some farmer who is doing fantastic for pomegranate in certain part of Maharashtra, but many people in Maharashtra doesn't know that some farmer in, say, Ahmednagar is doing fantastic. Okay, so I think the success story needs to be highlighted. Okay, both on the institutional side and a lot of on the startup side also. Okay, and third and the last, I think many farmers still don't believe in technology on ground. Okay, even if I say ki I told them that tomorrow there will be some rain. Don't apply any fertilizer or pesticide. Okay, but in my feedback loop, I have seen more than 80% farmer apply on their own, because he is not confident that someone is saying that tomorrow is going to rain. Either it will happen or not. Okay, it might take some time. Okay, or someone who is more influencer in that area needs to demonstrate that yes, this is something which will work. I think there are certain habitual issues, but I think over the period and more people once adapt, it will get automatically solved.
Okay. Mr. Sharma, we were talking about, remote sensing and how, how advisory related to soil and the, the land they are, actually farming in. So for this kind of advisory and democratizing those information, what are the, possibilities, what are the smart farming techniques can be brought in with satellite data and imagery, if you could tell us about that.
Yeah, so if we see like satellite, like data analytics is improving very fast. So we can easily understand soil moisture, which is already there. Then we can also kind of do away with a very important element in the course of time. If we create algorithm, that's what we are trying to do, is like soil carbon certification. For organic like farming, you need certification in India. It's really bureaucratic and not easy for the farmers to keep getting it, and it's costly as well. So what if the satellite and we have the kind of algorithm we are creating in Solify can do away with that? And if it is done away with that, then just like we can see, let's say in Uber, you can see cars, you can also see agri farms spotted across the country, where we know that this farm, if it is there, and we click it and we can at least know what are the producers if they are there. If they are organic, yes. And we can also have a linkage with, let's say, some local FPOs and others, where these items could be shipped as well. So things could be much more cleaner in terms of the source supply thing as well, because that's something also which is kind of talked about a lot in Europe, very much, where they are asking what is the actual source of these producers which you are having. So and people want to also limit the distance of the producers which are traveling as well. So rather than having kiwi from New Zealand, we may get the same similar kiwi from Arunachal as well, or something like that. So your carbon footprints are again reduced in similar ways. And if we see, remote sensing also gives a kind of a very good analysis. If we do in aggregation manner, what kind of yield we will be predicting in. That is something which is very important for a nation like us, where huge population is there and we need to feed them properly. So if we kind of link ourselves with regenerative practices which actually are not diminishing the return, it is just keeping the soil healthy, and slowly and steadily we are primarily gaining the similar kind of a produces from the farmer. At the same time, remote sensing is kind of giving a confidence to the buyer that look, these things are authentic. So we are kind of reducing the channels of bureaucracy and installing confidence on both sides. And that will also allow the finance to flow in as well on the other side, because there'll be much more transparent process which will be there.
So these kind of solutions are not actually new, and we are hearing from the ecosystem players about this kind of solutions for quite some time. But this is also true that we are actually far off from the widespread adoption of this kind of solutions. One thing you mentioned that procuring those data is a challenge. Access to that those kind of data is a challenge, and you are also mentioning about the need of building a digital agri stack. So since we are short of time, so I would like to know from you all quickly, if you could talk about some of the challenges you are facing on the ground while you are working with this kind of solutions, and also how this digital agri stack can help. Because what I have seen that in India, even the physical records are not not that reliable. So how the entire digitization thing will work, if you could touch upon that quickly.
Maybe I can add, Soma. Uh, See, the potential is quite high. All of us agree. capabilities are also quite good in the country from all the angles, whether researchers, academian, startups, content provider. We have strong capability actually. We are not depending on anybody else. The key point actually is the collaboration. I mean, not a single company can deliver all this. Not a single, or not even government can deliver all this. It's a collaboration. When we have the large, goal in front of us, and all of us agree actually. If you talk to 100 people in the community, everybody will agree to this. So collaboration is the key, and I think this is coming up also. I mean, I remember when we started our startup program, 2-3 years back. Lots of startups have come in agriculture domain, and today we have around, I think, 70 plus startups, not in agriculture but overall. And we find there are a lot of innovation happening. I was talking to one startup around 10 days back. What they're saying that they are working around data processing on board. It's an interesting concept, right? I mean, how this is going to come out, that's a different thing. So what they say that satellite data procuring every week, every month is a big challenge. A lot of data download from satellites, etc. So they're working for the onboard satellite onboard sensors, and can they process the data and they send only analytics to the ground, right? Which will become actually maybe 5% of the cost. They will reduce 95% of the cost of data download, data creation, data processing, everything. I mean, a lot of disruption. I expect a lot of disruption to happen in next couple of years in this direction, in space technology also, and its utilization processes, etc. And but collaboration will help, and I'm sure the agri-tech, when we are talking, it may not come out actually, on day one. It will evolve actually, right? We have different data sets by government department. One good thing, under our current prime minister is that government is open to share data, right? We have already partnered with a couple of government organizations. They have shared their data sets. We have published. We have put in also efforts, and we are making it actually open, to the people. They can use as a service, right? Users can use. They can build applications. So I'm very positive about it. The next couple of years, things are going to be very, very different, and a lot of people will come and collaborate, and I think it will mature.
Mr. Patil and Mr. Sharma, quickly, your perspectives.
No, I think very quickly, I think I absolutely agree with Mr. Vijay that without collaboration is absolutely not possible. Okay, more and more people should accept these kind of data set for review. Okay, I'll give one small example only. Like one of the states where we are working, we do a simple crop classification. Okay, now everybody has an issue that okay, you are saying this is soybean, but does this is soybean or not? It's a question. Okay, but we want that someone from the policy side or the government side can also validate what the startups are doing. So very interesting from the senior bureaucrat that he said, okay, all those startups who are working in this state can submit their classification results. Okay, my people on the ground are actually doing the ground surveys. They will verify. Okay, if your classification is correct, okay, you will get paid. And going forward after 3 years, will not do a manual classification. Will depend on the satellite base. I think someone who's this kind of approach where data sets coming from the technology or the sector and where government can act as a validation part. Right now, what government is publishing that we have to accept. Okay, like, and that's why that many of the times we get the issue, the conflicting issue. Like I'm saying it's an irrigated government record, saying it is not irrigated. Now, but because it's a government record, this is irrigated then, whatever they say. So I think it's a counter acceptance. As better word is collaboration is something which is absolutely essential to take all the solutions in this actually to the last mile.
Mr. Sharma, you would like to add something?
Yeah, like already both of them have very rightly summarized, like collaborations is very important. And also we have to see technology as an enabler to the larger mission that we all are talking about. And it is going to happen. Like we have seen technology kind of evolving very fast. And this is also going to make a difference to the way we visualize that, like the farm from the space. And if we kind of take a more holistic approach, these solutions have to be now tagged along. The connecting the dot phenomena has to come in now. And we have to also have collaboration, not just with the local ecosystem, but in a global manner as well. Because this is not a problem of one country, it is a multi-country thing if we talk about it. And we learn from this whole thing, and also kind of share our learnings for the betterment of our future. And this is very critical. We are talking about food security, we are talking about farm, and we are talking about soil health. All these things are like one of the most vital things for a human race. So it's a very lots of convergence which are coming in for a positive thing.
Well, we don't have much time. I thoroughly enjoyed the discussion today. That's a wrap for today's discussion. Great insights, Anuj Sharma, Vijay, Kumar, and Yogesh Patil. Thank you for your time. And thank you for everyone for joining us today. Also, please join us again on 28th Feb for another engaging session of PCQuest Health Tech.
Thank you, Soma. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.